The deadliest and most destructive wildfire in California history left 85 people dead and tens of thousands displaced or homeless. 1 year later, the devastation caused by the Camp Fire still remains. The residents of Paradise, California would tell you their home lived up to its name.
Every time I went somewhere, people would ask, where are you from? And I said Paradise, and it was just paradise. It was just a small community. It was a beautiful place to live.
It's so little, it's so far away from everything. But the people here, as soon as I moved here, the people here were so welcoming. Everybody was so nice. I fell in love with it. Then the fire.
Paradise Police, how can I help you?
We got a big fire.
There are spot fires all over and the wind is blowing like hell.
On the morning of November 8, 2018, a fire raged through Butte County in Northern California. Electrical transmission lines sparked the Camp Fire, named after the place where it started on Camp Creek Road. The blaze consumed over 150,000 acres and destroyed more than 18,000 structures, including almost the entire town of Paradise. Everything they cherished, their homes, jobs, and lives as they knew them, went up in flames.
Neighborhoods, areas, just wiped.
It's gone. There's nothing left.
Half our house was on fire and I burned part of my face trying to put water on the house, but the flames were just too much.
I always tell people they're always going to remember 9/11, but everyone in this area is always going to remember November 8th.
First responders had the mammoth task of evacuating more than 50,000 people from the area, including entire towns like Paradise.
What goes through my mind is that there were that many people living here one day, and the next morning they were all gone. And I didn't know for a month and a half if they were alive.
First responders weren't the only ones doing everything they could to get every resident, including the most vulnerable members of the population, to safety. The day of the blaze, Jenna Maxwell was at Sunshine Assisted Living, where she's a manager.
This is a really nice place. It doesn't look like a skilled nursing facility. It doesn't look like a rehab. It looks like home.
She helped evacuate 18 of the 50 residents living in the facility's 3 buildings.
We were all operating in survival mode. So everything was by the book. Nobody panicked. Everybody got in the vehicles with everybody's medications and personal effects and left.
I would imagine that morning was really scary.
It was. I was trying to think when it happened, morning or night. I'm all mixed up after my stroke.
Trees were exploding. There was a fire tornado in front of my car. The fire was so close that it was singeing my eyebrows, my eyelashes, and the side of my hair. I lost all cell service. I couldn't even get a hold of my own family. It didn't really hit me until I think we were somewhere near Chico or Durham. I saw the sky wasn't really black, like it wasn't nighttime. It for real wasn't, because it did feel like midnight at 10 o'clock in the morning. When I saw a break, there was blue sky. And as soon as I got all the residents out of my car, I crumpled to the ground and just kind of lost it for a few minutes.
Everybody made it out.
That was something else, huh?
Yeah, that was something. We did it.
Like Jenna and her staff, Stephen Murray made an effort to rescue members of Paradise's senior citizen community.
I worked at Apple Tree Village Mobile Home Park. There was 281 seniors there and 167 homes. Apple Tree Village was my retirement job. I love seniors. I love them to death. I was a grandson that some never had, or the son that some lost. I was just that person that they felt comfortable with. So that morning I had a large amount of people that I knew that I had to get to safety. So I came to the park around 6:45 in the morning and just started driving through here, honking my horn in my truck.
You gotta stop and make sure this guy's okay.
And yelling out the windows, telling everyone, get in your cars.
You gotta get out of here, but it's all gridlock. There's fires right here on the other side of the park, right there.
Stephen wouldn't know for over a month if everyone from Apple Tree Village made it out safely.
I found a piece of wood in someone's shed and wrote on there saying, please call me. I needed to know that they were okay. I've been able to talk to every single resident of Apple Tree Village. They're scattered all over the United States. And to find out that all 281 seniors made it out alive without any harm done to them is a miracle.
Once the initial adrenaline and shock wore off, Stephen and Jenna were left to pick up the pieces of their own lives. Both of them had lost nearly everything.
When I first saw my home after we came back and it was just demolished, all the ash everywhere, that hurt. And I thought, nothing can be worse than this. The day they cleared my lot, I was basically on my knees. The things that could not be replaced, and I really mourned. My parents' ashes were in there, and my first daughter's belongings. She had passed away in '94, and those I can't get back.
There's 4 of us, my wife, my 2-year-old, and my baby that's 11 months old.
I would imagine it gets cramped.
Pretty cramped. We're just trying to survive out here in a trailer in the middle of nowhere.
On top of losing their homes, each had other challenges to face.
My baby was raised in the back of my truck in a car seat, bouncing around from hotel to hotel. I wanted my baby to be born and raised in the house. So losing our home, the hardest part was she was born in the house, but she couldn't be raised in the house.
So before the fire, I had found out that I had some kidney disease. So I said, okay, that's fine, I'll deal with it. But then the fire happened. And I got really sick after driving through the fire. I didn't realize what was happening. Then my kidney function went down to 4%. So that's when they decided to do immediate dialysis. I hook up every night, and it takes about 10 hours a night. So I can't leave that room. I'm hooked up to a leash.
Despite the major medical setbacks she's facing, there's one positive thing Jenna can focus on while waiting for a kidney donor, her new home.
I'm totally excited. I cannot wait for this to be finished. Just looking at how much progress they've made just makes me all excited. Oh, we have steps. We didn't have steps before.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
Stephen and his family eventually made it out of their trailer too. While it's not paradise perfect, it's a place they can still call home. And these days, having a place to hang his hat is especially important to Stephen. He runs a nonprofit called the Coral Apple Foundation, dedicated to helping fire victims, and much of his time is spent on the road.
I've drove all over the place. I've been driving 10,000 miles a month, relocating survivors, just been trying to help anybody in need that reaches out. There's a lot of people out there that don't have any positive in their life. Some people have nobody, and so I try to be that person for that person that doesn't have anyone. It's gonna take some time, but when it is all said and done, paradise will come back.
Paradise, as cliche as it is, it's all that its name implies. It is so cute, so quaint. And yes, I did just use the current term, I didn't say was, because parts of it still are. Parts of it are beautiful still. I can't wait for paradise to be the same way that it was pre-fire. And I know it's gonna take years, I know, but I wanna be part of that process. It's okay to return. It's okay to want to rebuild. It's okay to want to rebuild your life. And I know it's hard, but speaking as someone who is battling several different battles at once, if I can do it, so can anyone else.
For more on what the last year has been like for survivors of the Camp Fire, we spoke with Sacramento-based reporter Vicki Gonzalez. She spent the last year following Camp Fire survivors as they started the arduous process of rebuilding their lives. The culmination of her reporting aired as an hour-long documentary on KCRA.
We decided that we wanted to follow families through the rebuilding process. And then came the work of finding those families who were willing to make a year-long commitment during the worst time of their lives to allow us to be there for those milestones, the ups and the downs, and these intimate moments. And so it really, for me, it was daunting. It was difficult. You have thousands of individuals, tens of thousands of individuals who are displaced. And that's really where social media was just such an asset on my end. And also where local journalism comes into play, because we're covering this story every single day, every week. We've been covering it every week over the past year. So we're there all the time, and we see the faces of these individuals. We're joining Facebook groups, and it really was kind of a rabbit hole of social media. I mean, the threads of stories from this disaster are just exponential. But really the crux of it was finding people who were willing to allow us to film their lives for a year. And just so grateful that we found the 4 families that we were able to follow, and each has a very unique individual story.
Now that the documentary has aired, is there anything about your experience working on it that you'd like to share?
The way I could sum it up was really gratitude is what I take away from this experience. Most of us will never be able to understand what it was like to go through the Camp Fire. But what we can relate to is, what do you do when you're faced with adversity in life. And the remarkable thing with all four of these families, whether it's a family of five in a fifth wheel, a pregnant teacher, to someone who helped 281 seniors escape from a mobile home park, to Jenna, who would go into kidney failure after the Camp Fire, 4 months after, the takeaway is this happened, but life doesn't stop. And life's challenges don't stop. I've learned so much from each family, just how to tackle life. And I hope that by watching the documentary, people leave with a huge sense of resiliency and inspiration, frankly.
Speaking of which, Stephen's selflessness is really inspiring. What led him to start his nonprofit?
I think everything started for Stephen when he did his first Facebook Live, and that was shortly after the Camp Fire. He didn't even know what Facebook Live was, but he just needed an outlet to express himself. He's done several hundred Facebook Lives in the past year of the Camp Fire. With that, you develop a following and there's engagement. People are commenting, they need things. And he couldn't say no. He knew he could help. It gave him a sense of purpose, and I think it really helped him heal from the trauma of the Camp Fire. And he founded the Coral Apple Foundation. Coral is the street that he lived on, and Apple is Apple Tree Village. That was his dream job. And it really did snowball in the best way. And that's really a testament to his character and his generosity and his kind heart. And just recently he found a job. So he's working full time in addition to his nonprofit and doing whatever he can to help the small community continue to find some sense of stability.
And what about Jenna? How is she doing?
Jenna is doing great. Her mood has really improved tenfold as the foundation on her house turns into the frame on her house. And as far as her health journey and needing a donor, she has a donor candidate. She's really starting to see a new chapter in her life. And she is so happy to be working at Sunshine Assisted Living. You can just see how much she enjoys working there and how much she loves all of those residents.
And what was your goal with this documentary?
We wanted to focus on the resiliency of this community. This story was not about fire, and the story wasn't about destruction. The story was about resiliency and rebuilding. And one of the, I think, most poignant and profound things so far of my career, we premiered this documentary in the town of Paradise for those survivors. One of the best and just most rewarding pieces of feedback was, thank you for not destroying our town. We can't ever understand what they went through on that day, but there's so much to gain from what they did with that experience and how they're recreating and redefining a meaning of home and a deeper sense of community.
What are some ways people can help victims of the Camp Fire?
So there's the North Valley Community Foundation. They're in Chico. There's the Paradise Rotary Foundation. There's actually Stephen's nonprofit, Coral Apple Foundation, and also the North Valley Catholic Social Services. Those four are really the big ones if you want to help Camp Fire survivors. And one of the biggest things when talking with survivors of the Camp Fire more than a year later is, don't forget about us. Their town is very much still leveled. I mean, there is rebuilding, but there is a lot more work that needs to be done. So you have these huge successes, but yeah, when you're driving down the main drag, you see that it's a long road to rebuild.
The kindness, generosity, and compassion displayed by survivors and strangers alike in the wake of devastating natural disasters like the Camp Fire is nothing short of admirable. If you'd like to know how you can help victims like Jenna and Stephen, we'll share details in our Facebook group, Conversations from the Middle. I'm Alexandra Stone. Thanks for watching.